What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Everyday Cafe. We've got some things to talk about today, but first, the coffee. And today, we have a local roast, extremely local, to me specifically, JSA Coffee, and they are out of Seymour, Wisconsin. And today, the roast is butterbeer, for all you Harry Potter fans out there. And we have a nice little caption: wizards and witches around the world keep this coffee flying off the shelves. Notes of butterscotch, caramel, and vanilla. And I can confirm this whole place smells like this stuff right now. And I'm looking forward to trying it out. So we're going to do that. Let me get some of this poured up. Sick. Flawless execution. Cheers. Ooh. Very flavorful. It's hot. Yeah. Yeah.
But very good. Very flavorful.
It's like hyper smooth. You know, like it doesn't, I even brewed it strong and it doesn't have like a strong bite at the end, I don't think. Like a bitterness bite.
No, it doesn't really linger on your tongue either.
That's the other thing. It doesn't linger. Yeah, good thing they sell them in big bags because this is delightful. This is wonderful. So JSA Coffee, butterbeer. Again, not sponsored, but as of right now, a fan. So hope everyone's week is going well. Some things we want to chat about. Mostly just what's on my mind, like usual. However, if anyone has questions or concerns or topics, comments they'd like me to discuss on an episode, please feel free to shoot me an email, everydaycafequestions@proton.me. I'll have that on screen and in the description. We also have a Discord server, Everyday Cafe on Discord. I'll have that link in the description as well for all you gamers out there or non-gamers. But multiple places for you to chat and let me know how you're feeling, what you're thinking, if you want my take on anything going on in your lives for whatever reason. But I think today what's on my mind is, for lack of a better word for it, the cycle. The cycle, monotony, the hamster wheel, whatever you want to call it. Does anyone else get sick of the cycle? You know, it could take different forms, but maybe it could be as simple as doing literally the same thing every day. So you wake up at the same time, you do the same 2-3 things in your morning routine. You take the same way to work if you don't work remote. Or if you work remote, you just, you go right to your computer, whatever. Same general tasks every day at work while you're working. Do this, do that for this person, that person, whatever. You do all that. You get done. Maybe you got a gym situation going on. Maybe you hit that up. That's cool. That's good. But it's really, a rinse and repeat scenario where you could probably do most of it on autopilot. And when it comes to something like that, I don't know if it's better to recognize it or not recognize it, because when you recognize it, like I am, it feels like you're bashing your head against the wall, essentially. And I guess I'm going to say the awareness is a good thing, because that means you can do something about it. For example, there's so much self-help and this and that and the other thing on the socials these days. Whole bunch of people telling you what to do and why to do it. You should do this, you should do that with your life, XYZ thing, you should do all these things. The grind. Hashtag the grind. Parts of the grind are good, but it's almost as if bashing your head against the wall is the only way. And it can be part of the deal, but I personally don't think that the solution to the realization that you are bashing your head against the wall and you are feeling disconnected or on autopilot is to do it harder, do it more. I think by doing that, you lose track of so much time. I don't know when this is going up, but we're in the beginning of August, and I feel like I blinked earlier this year in January, and now we're here. So that brings some perspective too. think we all know time is a fickle thing and not something that we can grasp or hold on to. It slips through your fingers like sand. And I think the hamster wheel only accentuates that. You blink and before you know it, 6 months of your life went by and you might not remember hardly any of it. That's kind of a scary thing, isn't it? So what to do about that? What do I do about that? I think small changes can be the antidote to that. You know, maybe I don't know. It could be anything. Maybe a part of your morning commute is to stop and get coffee, for example. Maybe instead you make yourself a little homebrew action. Maybe you take an extra 15 minutes in the morning before you head out there to just like sit on your couch and enjoy. You really notice the cup of coffee, for example. That's actually a favorite thing of mine to do. I've many times, I don't turn things on in the morning. I just sit and notice, listen. Sometimes you listen to nothing. And I think doing that helps break up the monotony. Gives you something to remember or something to appreciate in your work week or whatever string of days you have together that are all the same. I think the art of noticing is the antidote to some of that. And just been really feeling that a lot lately. I don't know about you guys, but it comes and goes. But I've lately just become increasingly aware of the wheel and trying to break out of that. Because for whatever reason, it's just becoming aware of it. I don't know. It doesn't make me feel great. It makes me feel not unmotivated, but you just kind of get sick of it. Like, I don't really is this it? You know? Going to work tomorrow, doing the same thing. It's not a bad job either. You know, that's the funniest part of the whole thing is your monotony might all be good things too. You know, you might like your job, for example. So then it becomes even weirder because you're like, what the hell's going on? I like my job. Or I did. Or I still do, but I used to be way more engaged with it instead of just going and checking boxes every day. You know, I mean, you acclimate to everything, right? After a certain amount of time, when something's new, there's a point in time where it no longer is new. I think that's normal. But I just can't shake the feeling of there's just so much more life packed into every day that all you need to do is notice it. And I think the problem, my problem, only speaking for myself with all this really, is by not noticing it, you know, it can just feel empty, maybe, for lack of a better word. And I just feel like there's more to it, you know? Like you're missing the point if you get locked into that sort of thing. Autopilot is the enemy, I guess, is what I'm saying. Like, when's the last time, you know, in your routine, in all the normal places you go, let's say it's the work thing again, say it's a work day. Like some of the hardest times to just stop and notice and be present is probably, you know, work's probably one of them. When's the last time you were at work and you just listened to what was happening around you and paid attention to it? Like maybe there's, I don't know, maybe on your walk into the door at work, maybe you hear a bird. When's the last time you actually paid attention to that? And not necessarily thought about it or tried to guess, well, what kind of bird is that? Or really thought about the sound you're hearing, but just allowed yourself to be aware of it. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense, because there is a difference. Noticing it versus interpreting it. You know? Or You sit down, if you have a desk job, for example, maybe you sit down at your desk. When's the last time you noticed how your body feels in your chair? When you sit down, like this one, for example, there's a lot of support going on. I can feel it like curving around my back. When's the last time you like paid attention to the feeling of your back sinking into your chair? Like that's the micro stuff I'm talking about. Or the feeling of a door handle when you grab it. And some of that stuff might not matter. But that's all the stuff, your brain's a very powerful tool. It's going to optimize everything. So that includes your day to day. It's going to put you on autopilot for the sake of efficiency, I guess. Or, maybe you're talking to somebody at work or otherwise. Are you really paying attention to them while you're talking to them? Are you noticing anything about them, or are you just being talked at? I just think there are so many little things through the course of a day that can really bring a lot of color. For all you SpongeBob fans, all I think about is Squidward's like perfect day episode where he gets to do everything he's always wanted to do. And for the first few days, it's like the best thing ever. And then it's like a montage over time of him slowly becoming bored of it and disconnected from it and sad, really. Yeah, SpongeBob. The great philosopher. But I think that's a super, shocking representation of kind of what you can start to feel like. What I can feel like sometimes. And I think some of that is part of this whole thing. I'm not saying, to fight that necessarily. I don't think that's a healthy thing either. But being aware of it can help you to, I guess, improve it, for lack of a better word. Because for me, if I get stuck in that wheel for too long, you start living in the present less and less and less and less. I say but I'm talking about me. Your worries or anxieties might go up because you're thinking of the what ifs or what your plans all the time. Like, what do I want to do in the future? Where is this taking me? What am I doing and where am I going with it? Or, you forget to appreciate what's happening right now. Like, for example, I really like how the handle on this mug fits in my hand. I like how this mug feels. I can feel the warmth of the coffee in the bottom of it dissipate as I grab it towards the top. When's the last time you noticed stuff like that or paid attention to stuff like that? I find doing that is a huge mental breath of fresh air. Just noticing things. Or like if you're a gym person, like the other day, I was at the gym and I didn't put any music on. I just listened to the ambience of the gym and like the weights moving around and people talking, and I paid attention to it. That's another thing with like AirPods and everything else. Like everyone's always got earbuds in. They can't, if they're on a walk or reading a book, or some people can't even read a book and sit still long enough to read a book, for example. Or if you're working, having a stream up or a YouTube video up on a different monitor or your phone or whatever, and that's fine. That's not bad. Like as a thing, but I think by choosing to not have anything like that going on and just being present with what I'm doing, it kind of reopens up your bandwidth. It kind of resets you internally a little bit. It takes your brain out of fight or flight and planning and scheming and, well, scheming sounds negative, but planning is what I mean. Where if you just kind of unplug from all that for a second, you know, the present moment's actually pretty nice. And there's a lot of magic happening. The fact that we're here, for example, at all. You know, I look around at what's in front of me right now. You know, notice how light hits different things, the shadows it makes, like the smallest little details. I think for me, if I don't do that stuff, when I start to feel like I'm on the hamster wheel or bashing my head against the wall, doing the same things over and over, you start to look for a solution. You start digging and clawing at, well, maybe the job's wrong. Maybe I need to find a different job. Maybe I'm not living in the right place. Maybe I need to move. Maybe I need a new hobby. You know, maybe I need something. Maybe my default reaction would be a lacking one. Like what can I do to fill this void? Instead of just taking a second. Just taking a second and making small decisions, like I said in the beginning. Maybe take a different route to work every now and then. You know, if you realize you're taking the highway every morning and, you know, if it's a Monday through Friday work week, if 3 mornings out of 5, you get pissed off in traffic because highway traffic in the morning sucks. If you have an option somewhere along that route to change it, change it. You know, either on the front end or the back end of your day, take an extra 5 to 10 minutes to do something you don't normally do. Doesn't have to be anything big. Maybe when you get home, take a quick walk around the block. Maybe, I mean, like I said, the coffee thing for me is a favorite in the morning. Not checking my phone or anything like that. There's never anything worth checking there anyway, really. You know, if you're popping on social media before you're even out of bed in the morning, for example, just fresh opening your eyes and the first thing you do is fill your brain with external stuff, you know, I don't think you have a great chance to really know how you're doing or how you're feeling to begin with. And I get it. I think going internal or having an absence of any stimulus can be a little scary if you're worried about what might come to the surface in the old noodle during that time. I get that. But I think that's kind of a branch off of that, where the longer you do that, I think the backlog just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, the water behind the dam builds more pressure and more pressure and more pressure, where when you finally do take a second, you might get flooded with a whole bunch of crap that you didn't know was there. But that's the stuff in the background that I think contributes to feeling so maybe on edge or anxious, or, you know, splits your attention, and you're always filling it with some sort of external stimulus, YouTube, Twitch, whatever you're into, podcasts. Or ironically, in that process, you start to consume a bunch of self-help stuff in search of the answer. So that's where you get into what I said earlier as well, where you can find anyone telling you to do a list of things. Like, oh, here's what you need to do. You know, cold plunge. It's one of my favorites. Cold plunge. You know, red light therapy. I've got a sauna in my house. Some of that stuff is cool, whatever. Cold plunge, sure. Cold shower. But it's not like, that's not the answer necessarily. I think that's just more running. Painting with broad strokes like usual. There's benefits in those things, I suppose. But that, I think, is just another manifestation of bashing your head against the wall harder. You know, You don't have to fight everything that surfaces in your brain, or every feeling or every emotion. You don't have to fight it, or especially if it's negative. The default reaction doesn't always have to be, how do I get rid of this? I don't like feeling this way. You can just feel it. That is an option available to you. More is not always better. More things, more things to divide your attention or distract you. It's okay to just live and pay attention. And if nothing else, one thing when I feel that way that I've found, if you're really feeling in your head or worried or whatever, feeling disconnected, a lot of times, like if you're lost in the weeds, I've found the answer is usually not in the weeds with you. So by taking these different little micro actions, you might stumble across a perspective that you couldn't have possibly predicted by, for example, sitting on your couch stewing about it or something like that. The answer to the problem is likely not in the problem. So if I start feeling, restless or something like that, that's usually a trigger for me to be like, okay, I'm going to do something. I'm not likely to find the answer sitting here thinking about it or ruminating. There's this, that reminds me of a quote. I wrote it down too. This was a long time ago. It's something like, take action and life will present itself to you. So that implies nothing happens if nothing happens, or nothing changes if nothing changes. You start doing stuff and making choices, for example, as vague as that sounds, stuff will happen. Especially if they're new decisions, as small as they might be. The walk example, you go for a walk after work, Maybe you bump into a stranger on your walk and they say they like your shoes. Well, that's something that wouldn't have happened if you didn't do that. That's something that wasn't on the bingo card when you woke up. That's a new thing that didn't happen last week. Or maybe you go for a drive or something like that and you end up grabbing a coffee somewhere or something like that, somewhere you've never been before, and maybe the experience of that, just that, like, hey, this coffee is incredible. It's new dots on the line graph that weren't there before. There's just unlimited potential out there here that we can be blind to by getting too locked into our routines or systems or jobs or what have you, too acclimated to the wheel, where we forget to live. And none of this is a magic bullet. These things come and go, but it's nice to have options available to you when you feel certain ways, I suppose, is what I'm saying, where there's things you can do. The gym might be one for me where, movement is what I call it, can be good medicine, where even just the process of doing something like that, whether it's a walk, gym, whatever, something physical always seems to do good, where even if nothing happens per se, you go to the gym and it's the same as usual, you might walk out of there just because of, all the chemicals and all the blood flowing and all that stuff, where you just have a different perspective. You just, the endorphins from that might make you feel good. There's just, the possibilities are unlimited by just taking a small action or making a small choice. Read 5 pages out of a book that you bought 6 months ago and haven't touched. You don't got to read the whole thing. You don't got to read half the book in one sitting, but read a couple pages. Just pay attention. Pay attention. We're already in the last quarter of 2025. Have you done anything in these first 3 that you're happy about? That you'll remember? Did you make any memories? And if you're feeling this way, is it actually that bad, or are you just acclimated and a little numb to everything? So more than anything, this is a reminder to myself is to just slow down for a second mentally. That's another thing. If you're at something, an event, for example, or some sort of happening somewhere, you don't have to record everything. You can just experience the thing too. Nothing wrong with taking a picture or two, but you know what I'm talking about. You go to a concert, or we were at the racetrack today, and so many people are watching it through their phone when the thing is right in front of them. And that just feels weird. I promise you'll remember it if you pay attention. I think that's the go-to, where it's well, I want to remember this. If I don't take this video and put it on my Snapchat story, how am I supposed to remember what happened, dude? That's the irony. If you just experience the thing, chances are you're going to remember something. And it'll probably stick a lot more than that video you're never going to watch again. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Shocker, everyone. But I'm just talking about what I feel and what I do. And I think I took 2 pictures today. We were at the racetrack all day. One of you, and then the one of us. And that was it. My phone, I think, was in my pocket the whole time. Crazy. That's an option. So I digress. Thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight, whenever you're watching this. If anything I'm yapping about sparks anything on your end, feel free to leave that in a comment, or join the Discord again in the description. Shoot me an email on screen right now and in the description. Love to hear from you. So I think we all experience a lot of this stuff collectively, and I think a lot of times we don't know what the hell to do with it. So I'm not saying I do, but I think we can probably help each other. We're all just figuring this shit out. But appreciate you all. We'll be back soon with another one. If you had a good time, feel free to subscribe. Drop a like. Helps me out a lot. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one.